The British winner of the last race in the championship, the Portland race. What a superb victory it was in the closing moments. The closest finished in kart history as well, as Blundell snatched the win from Gilles de Ferran in the closing few moments. It really was a well-earned victory and such a good result for him after the disappointment in Detroit just a couple of weeks previously. And great for Pac West as well, the first victory for Pac West in an absolutely remarkable performance all round, really. But we've just got to see what happens this weekend. Is Marc Blundell going to have that sort of good fortune again? Yeah, it's a bit of a gamble there by staying out on the racetrack. He is the only person now who has not made a pit stop. I think Gord Sassal is actually on the chart here. He's not shown as having made a stop, but he's dropped from second place a couple of laps ago right down to the back of the pack. So I think he must have come in on the previous lap, although we actually couldn't see him here from our vantage point, I must admit. But Blundell there, he's hoping that he can make his one stop on schedule here, and that everybody else is going to have to make two stops. That's what he's gambling on right now. And the longer this caution goes, of course, the less chance of that working in his favour. So when he does make his pit stop, he's going to fall to the back of the line, and then it's a question of how much progress he can make, whether he can keep pace with the leaders, so that when they make their stop later on, he can get back on schedule, so to speak, and perhaps come out in front. But it's an awfully tough one to know just now. Just looking at this graphic we've got, you can see Mark is very much into the fuel window. The other guys, Nardine Tracy, who've only stopped recently, only done 5 laps, as you can see from their last pit stop, a long way off it. And of course, most of these laps have been under, well, they've all been under yellow flag, so they haven't been using that much fuel. Mark has up until around lap 34 to make his first stop, but he's going to have to do it by then, otherwise he'll be out of fuel. He's experienced that already this year at Detroit. He won't want to do it again. And so it will be, we'll just have to see when he decides to come into the pits. They'll be keeping an eye on when karts are going to go green flag racing once again. It looks as though the other guys are beginning to sort themselves out, and that's probably what's going to take a few laps to determine where everybody should be in the queue. Those guys who made the mistake of coming into the pits when it was closed, now having to drop back down the order and position themselves properly in the cart, now waiting for them to do that. Now we've got Chip Ganassi in the pits. Let's hear from him.
Alex now as we speak, because they're trying to change the order of the cars on the back straightaway. So they get a word with Mike Hull in the meantime. Mike, I know you guys are trying to sort out the order of the cars. Chip, are you done? What happened on that pit lane violation?
Apparently what was said over the car radio and what was shown on the sign were two different things, so we're just trying to figure it out right now.
You heard that the pits were open when in fact they weren't?
Yes.
Thank you, Chip. Obviously he's got some more important things to do right now, guys.
Well, that's interesting. They obviously, they're saying that the kart team said over the radio that the pit lane was open, but it hadn't been changed up here on the pit lane entry, so that's the cause of the confusion. All the teams are tuning into the kart broadcasts, and they can hear when the officials say, for example, that pit lane has been opened, so that he's saying that it had been opened. Kart are saying that it wasn't open. Well, they'll all sort themselves out soon. Blundell leads the pack at the moment. Back to Cleveland, and we've got under a lap to go until green flag comes out and the race gets underway again. It's been a little bit of a confused time, but it means that Marc Blundell is now leading, but he hasn't been into the pit, so effectively Gilles de Ferran is the man best placed. He lies second on the road, but he's been into the pits already. Christian Fittipaldi is behind him. Brian Herter then, followed by Jimmy Vasser, Greg Moore, Scott Pruitt, Andre Ribeiro, Alain Jr. and Patrick Carpentier. And of course we've lost the other guys like Alex Zanardi, Paul Tracy down to the back of the group now.
But the people that are now at the back of the group that had to make that stop as a penalty actually came into the pits again and took advantage of that by topping up with their fuel. So they've now done 6 or 7 laps fewer than the people that stopped earlier on, admittedly under the yellow, but that'll give them a little bit more of a leeway for when they next have to make their pit stop. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the course of the next 20 or 30 laps. But certainly Marc Blundell isn't going to be able to go out there stay out there for too long before he's going to be in the pits himself. And that'll put him way to the back of the pack.
So Marc Blundell leads them round as they get ready for the green flag to come out once again and get racing away. 1/3 distance completed here. Still 2/3 of the race to go, and anything can happen. This really could be anybody's race once again, as we've seen all season.
very topsy-turvy races. Mark Blundell heads out. Oh, and he so nearly spun it there as he got on the power. The turbo kicked in, the back end let go, but he kept it under control beautifully. But that was so close to going off, and he's wide into the first turn, and that gives de Ferran the chance to nip through. Revenge for Paul, and perhaps, although it's early stages in this race, de Ferran and Fittipaldi both nip past Mark Blundell, and Mark forgetting perhaps that those tyres are not fully up to temperature, both on the gas and on the brakes, not getting the sort of grip that he was expecting through the first couple of corners. And now Gilles de Ferran leads with fellow Brazilian Christian Fittipaldi chasing him in second position, and Mark Blundell now down to third.
At least. What a shame for Mark Blundell there, caught out on all counts there, and we hear that car number 4 will be brought in for a penalty. I think that was for what was that for?
Pit lane, I think it's for the pit lane.
The blend line violation.
That's Alex Zanardi. So Alex Zanardi's got to come in. Now that we've gone green flag racing, Zanardi has to come in. His disastrous day is turning into even more of a nightmare at the moment, and expect to see Zanardi come in. Look how far down now Michael Andretti is, down towards the back of the queue. There's Paul Tracy, championship leader. Bobby Rahal's a long way down. Franchitti down there. There is Zanardi. He's not come in yet. He should get the black flag this time around, but he should have come in then, I think. Well, he might be given the lapse grace. They're waving the black flag right now. Look at this mayhem going on down here. Walter Salas in the middle, Bobby Rahal on the inside. Rahal nips past Walter Salas, and also Adrian Fernandez gets past. Dario Franchitti also trying to get through, and does. So it's all changed down towards the back end of the field.
Yeah, and also a little bit ahead of those two. Greg Moore came past the pit slow. I'm not quite sure whether he'd made a mistake coming out of turn 10, but certainly was as slow as they came past here. Andre Ribeiro shot past him into 7th place. So we'll have to keep our eyes open for Greg Moore and see whether he is still out on the track and up to speed.
Well, Franchitti and Rahal struggling down there, and let's just see exactly where they are. That's the battle for 20th place at the moment, with all the changes that have been made. And Dario Franchitti down in that position. There's Alex Zanardi, but he's got to come into the pits, remember, at the end of this lap. So let's see if he does respond to that black flag after leading this race and looking as though he was set to win it. But he hasn't come in again there, Jeremy. He's decided to stay out there, and he is going to get into big trouble if he doesn't come in fairly soon. Zanardi has radio problems, though, we've been told. Well, that's what the team say, but he still has a black flag out there for Zanardi, and he's got to respond to that very, very soon, otherwise he's going to be in big trouble. So he continues round. De Ferran is leading at the moment, and his advantage, something like 1.1 seconds at the moment. Bit of debris out on the circuit, couldn't quite spot who that was from. I'm glad to say we've been joined up in the commentary box by, well, glad in some ways, not in others, as Zanardi gets it very crossed up there. Very nearly lost it completely as he was trying to get past Matsushita. We've got Max Pappas up with us. Max, tell us what happened to you. Why are you out of the race?
Yeah, first of all, we had a problem with the engine, and we were running leaner and leaner to try to save fuel, and the engine was getting tighter and tighter, and the engine just gave up. As soon as the yellow flags came out, it was a sad race for us.
Oh, and Mark Blundell's now come into the pits. Look at this, Blundell, who was up amongst the leading few, but he didn't make his pit stop, remember. He now comes into the pits under green flag racing conditions. This is going to drop him a long way down the order. Strange strategy from Pac West with Blundell there. We'll just have to see whether this gives him a chance to make it through just on 2 stops, but he won't be the only one being able to do that. So it doesn't seem to have gained him much. Zanardi, meanwhile, is also into the pits. There's the number 4 car. And that was 4 coming out of the pits wrongly. Let's just watch them. Let's see if we follow them coming out of the pits here. This is where there can be problems as they come back onto the circuit. And Zanardi picking up a blend line violation there. Max, the drivers presumably were warned about that in the driver's briefing.
Yeah, definitely. We have to really be careful about that, because the pit exit is really tough, and it's a bump in the exit. You can lose the car very easy when you have new tires on.
What are the conditions like out there? It's very hot today. Was it a struggle in the car?
I tell you, that out there is really, really hot. We're struggling, especially because this track eats up the front tire really much, and you get a lot of understeer in the car. So you have to play with the car to try to reduce the understeer.
Well, we've seen a very strange situation. I suppose you weren't really fully aware of what was going on with the pit stops, because at that time you were actually retiring. But we've had a few cars coming into the pits, a few not. Presumably, again, you were told about this pit lane being open in the driver's briefing.
Yeah, that's what we say. We were going to have pit lane open, and we could carry speed in the pit lane, until the 60 mile mark. It's pretty fast going into there. It's quite dangerous as well. But I think they did a good job to take the wall out from yesterday, and the track was much safer today.
good. Okay, well, thanks for joining us up here today, Max. Sorry to see you out of the race already, and your friends and family watching us in Italy at the moment, they'll be very disappointed, but I'm sure they'll be glad to hear from you.
Yeah, a big ciao to all my family at home, and you know, I think, you know, and I really hope all the European fans will watch and follow us as much as they can. And ciao, Mama. I see you soon. Ciao.
Thanks a lot, Max. And as he heads back down towards the pit lane, a rather hot and sweaty looking Max after being in the car for a while there. Charlie Neerberg is into the pits at the moment, and the guy who was getting in everybody's way somewhat earlier on, he seems to have some sort of engine problem because they've taken the cover off that car. And that's probably a bit of a relief to everybody else who was struggling to get past him earlier. Meanwhile, up front, Gilles de Ferran is our race leader from Christian Fittipaldi. The gap is 1.4 seconds. Third is Vassar. Fourth is Brian Herta. Fifth is Scott Pruitt. Sixth position is Greg Moore. Seventh, Andre Ribeiro. Alanza Jr. is up to eighth. Patrick Carpentier ninth. And Parker Johnston is now in 10th position. It really has all changed around.
Yeah, he does, and as you said, there indeed mentioned the car number 99 of Greg Moore in 6th place, so he was able to get up to speed again. I think he just made a mistake coming off that turn 9-10 chicane, was able to get back past Andre Ribeiro, and so still running strongly in 6th place there, the player's car of Greg Moore.
Now then, Jeremy, you're keeping the lap chart as we speak. Now, are any of those guys who were down the back, who were a long way down when they had to be repositioned from that pit stop, any of them making much serious progress at the moment?
The best of them actually is Michael Andretti, who's up into 11th place at the moment, shadowed there by Paul Tracy. So they're beginning to make some moves up there, but the other guy's really quite a long way back. Certainly Dario Franchitti is back in 17th place at the moment, and after their pit stops, Alex Zanardi and Mark Blundell 22nd and 23rd, so at the tail end of those on the lead lap.
So disappointing for two of the European former Grand Prix drivers, Zanardi and Blundell, not having a great afternoon. The battle you're watching is between Jimmy Vassar and Brian Herta, the battle for third place now this has become. And Herta, who's had an up and down time, particularly dealing with Charlie Neerberg earlier in the race, now very much on the pace once again with Jimmy Vassar there. And Jimmy Vassar going better than we've seen so far this weekend, holding on to that third place very effectively, although dropping away a little bit from Christian Fittipaldi. The gap something like 4 seconds now between himself and the Budweiser car of Fittipaldi there. In fact, you see the two leaders, and they're the gap to third.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy Vassar perhaps holding up Brian Herta. I think Brian Herta is pretty sure he's faster, but he's not able to get past the target car of Jimmy Vassar, his former teammate, of course. A couple of years ago, these two drove both for Chip Ganassi, and then Brian Herta was able to move across to Team Rahal, but quite a train of cars behind them there. There are those two, then there is Scott Pruitt behind him, then Greg Moore and Andre Ribeiro, and Alanza Jr. Showing his best form of the weekend. They're in 8th place ahead of Patrick Carpentier, also is showing much better form today than he had done the rest of the weekend.
Yes, and we've just got to watch out for the likes of Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy to see whether they can move up beyond these guys. It is possible to overtake here, as we've seen in the past. It is possible to run alongside other cars, but it's still not easy once you get into the slipstream of the guy ahead. The usual problem, the car loses downforce, but at least it's not impossible here. Some heavy braking required at the end of the next straight that they're coming onto now. So we get a good run through this corner, as Brian Herta has done, gets in the slipstream now. Are we going to see him move out under braking? Heavy braking for the hairpin, the slowest corner on the track. Perfect way to go past, but will he still have it on the exit of the corner? Yes, he will. He's come out of the